Hello, I have returned to the world of physical media, thanks to a free library that I was wandering by one day with my dogs and my mother-in-law, and I saw this Sarah Waters' "Tipping Da Vlvt." This is Welsh novelist Sarah Waters' first novel, published in 1998. I have read her. One of her next, I've read Fingersmith and I've read The Little Stranger. Fingersmith and Tipping Da Vlvt are set in kind of Victorian times for my purposes, because I'm in a whole project of reading books between kind of about or published between 1890 and 1910. This actually fits nicely in there. It's set in the very much kind of later Victorian period. Focusing on Nance, this girl who starts off as a young woman who starts off working in her family's oyster restaurant, and ends up in ends up in the music hall scene, which is like a really kind of fascinating era in there. Then ends up on the streets working as a sex worker, and then on to other things. And it is Sarah Waters kind of the word lesbian is never used in this book, because language is a really important thing, and Nance herself doesn't, especially at the beginning, does not have words for her emotions, her feelings, her attractions to other women, which is what kind of spurs her on to leave her family and her town, and to end up in the music hall scene. But there's an important thing of there's a lack of language. There's also sort of a lack of history. Looking into this book, it seems like my interpretation of it is Sarah Waters has done what it's funny, great novelists can do, but also bad novelists can do, which is imagine what things must have been like. Something that there's a gap in the history, that we do not have the documentation, we don't have the what was there, and kind of create something, an imagined life for a woman who loves other women, who isn't fixed in how she presents her gender. There's a lot of stuff here about performativeness, performing your gender. And there's a very kind of theoretical kind of stuff about that, which I don't know nearly about, but literally she is a performer in this book, and she talks about her performance throughout the book, and putting on different guises, putting on different selves. It's like performing not in an inauthentic, I'm faking things, but performing in a sense of I'm putting on a self, and that is a part of me and who I am, which makes this a really great book. But also just a thing of this is just, oftentimes I get really pissed off at historical novels when they insert modern ideas into books. Like, you have someone who is okay, you have a main character who's racism is bad and we should respect all women. And it's just it comes off as hollow, because it's very much feels like this is the author, a modern author inserting themselves back in time and inserting those thoughts, or at least the shapes of those thoughts. I mean, I think very much you can have somebody who's racism is wrong and you should respect women, but it should be authentic to that time. It should have that flavor to it or something. And I think the really wonderful thing about this book is it's because I was oh, I wonder what her sources were. I wonder how she investigated. And I mean, she does have a pretty steep. You can tell that Sarah Waters has a fairly great grasp of Victorian society and the minutiae, and what the streets felt like and sounded like and smelled like. She's got all that. But she's used that knowledge to then use her novelistic imagination to come up with kind of what tastes like a plausible world for women that were, this is, pre Stonewall, well pre Stonewall, but the kind of idea of like there would be places where women's clubs, there would be women's places of gathering, there would be kind of exploitative thing. There's very much the idea of it's England, we can't get away from the idea of class, and there's a section in this book where she is very much as a sex worker. You see the exploitation, you see the control of higher class over lower class in this book, and it's historical imagination done right. It is very much a first novel. There's the finale of this book where I feel like everything is getting pushed. All the characters are getting kind of pushed into one situation to sum it up. I don't begrudge that the ending. I think you get one happy ending. There's something of that, of like, if you're in literary fiction, you probably get one happy ending. I don't begrudge the book that, being as vague as possible. And I mean, that kind of, it's also, I think it's probably important for especially gay, lesbian fiction, of like, this isn't like a book and then we have tragedy at the end. I think, like, that was such the rule for such a long time, especially when a book in 1998 saying, no, I'm gonna imagine, not only I'm gonna imagine this world for lesbian women at this time, but I'm also going to imagine a positive, happy ending as kind of a thing of defiance. But there is very much kind of a first novelist, I'm going to shove this together in a way which is like, because it was getting towards the end of this book, and I was like, how is she going to get all this together? Oh, and she's going to kind of push it together in a way that I think going forward to like Fingersmith and Little Stranger, she obviously, not surprisingly, improved. But this book, it really does have all that magic, all that kind of that amazing way of kind of bringing an era and characters to life, and just the complexities of people trying to navigate being basically invisible. There's the whole kind of, I don't know if it's apocryphal thing of Queen Victoria refused to believe in lesbianism, so they weren't as actively persecuted as men, gay men at the time. There's probably actually more of a reasonable thing of women were so much more controlled than men at that time. Is such a heavy patriarchy that maybe that wasn't even necessary. This is me just spinning off, but yeah, Sarah Waters. This was a very lovely dip back into the physical realm from my usual ebook lovery. I mean, and yeah, and there'll be definitely more ebooks in my future, and I obviously have some physical books here I could get into, but this was just like I'm every time I read a Sarah Waters book, I'm like, why don't I read more Sarah Waters? And really, at this point, going by Wikipedia here, I've read Tppng Da Vlvt, Fingersmith, The Little Stranger, but I've not read Affinity, Night Watch. I think I've read Night Watch, though the prison one does make, I don't know, the Paying Guests are ones I have not read. So more Sarah Waters, hooray. All right, I will leave it there. More videos later. I've been Jay, by the way.